Hello, welcome. Oh, almost forgot the mic. Best darn investment I ever made in terms of vlogging was this little setup. Welcome to the Good Life meditation for the 9th day of December, 2021. Let me have a nice sip. This is something that I do every day, first thing in the morning, to remind myself of my objectives and principles and to keep me on target for my life. First, I always review the day prior. I then do the Good Life meditation, and then I anticipate the coming day. It's a process. Oh, and I've got another dog now, and he's like, "Hey, the other dog's in my bed." I'm sorry, the other bed's not up here. I wonder if Emily brought those. Anyway, never mind. Dog beds, it's a thing. I guess that's illustrative of the thought that was going through my mind as I was making my coffee this morning. Was a little. I always worry. I'm always worried. You want to come up here? Come on. Okay, there you go. Want to come sit with me? Come here. Yeah, someone took your bed, huh? Yeah, so you can come. You can come sit with me. I always worry that I was just worry. I'm just a worrier, and things are going well after rough 2021. The move out here to Menifee, started the new job, started working at home, is yielding fruit. It's a sunshiny place. It's a sunshiny state of life. And I keep thinking, whoa, wait, what's going to happen? This can't be true. Things are really good. Yeah, wow. How are you doing? How are you liking the new life out here? Is it okay? Our daily walks, we get to go to the dog park every day now, huh? That's kind of fun, huh? I'm averaging with the morning, a lunchtime, a morning, midday, mid-morning, lunchtime, mid-afternoon, and evening walks. About a good 15,000 steps a day with the dogs, which is good. Yesterday was a good day. I had one incident in the evening where the bullseye aim, where life certainly ambushed me. The door ding-donged and the dog went nuts, and I went to the door and it was a strange woman I had never met. Not strange, not strange isn't unusual, but just I don't know her, and a young, maybe a 12-year-old girl, and they claimed to be the neighbors, and that a package had been delivered to their address by mistake. Rather than just jumping on that and saying, "Oh," and they asked, and it was a big package, so they couldn't bring it over. Rather than just jumping on that and saying, "Oh, I'm on my way. Let's go pick it up," I went through this complicated thing with dogs barking and everything, trying to confirm with the family, with Yumiko namely, that they had ordered something. Now, why would I do that if the neighbor came over? Clearly, it said our address on it. They just sent it to the wrong address. And then I got over there, and for some reason, the whole family was outside, grandma, grandpa, everybody, with this ginormous package. And in my haste to try to pick up this beast, which probably needed two people, but it was like one of those things where I was in a kind of a panic. It's like when, you hear about, people doing, Herculean feats of strength when necessity demands, and I lifted this thing up with it, and with it balanced on one shoulder, this giant pack, it's a giant, like a bureau thing balanced on one shoulder. The woman introduces herself and proceeds to name off the family. Now, I had met the grandpa who lives there. It's the grandpa and the grandma who live there, I believe. And I had met him prior. And I said, "Oh, yes, and I had met Harold." And Harold's not his name. It's something else. It's William. I marched off with this giant, colossus thing on my shoulder, I look like a mad fool. And now, of course, not a big deal in the great scheme of things, but in terms of life ambushing me and not having not maintaining good balance and control over my thoughts and my words and all. I wasn't upset or anything like that. I was just goofy. They must have come across things like new neighbor's a freak. Bullseye aim, right? Also, I was a little anxious, not anxious, but upset with myself. I felt like I wasted time at work yesterday, but in hindsight, I don't think I did. I was really trying to get the lay of the land excuse me, of some new software, two pieces of software, trying to decide how the workflows would utilize those. And I made a Visio diagram of that to try to capture that. And I was very proud of myself at the end, and I shared that with my supervisor and a coworker. And I was told, not quite, yeah, but not quite. And I understand better now. I felt like a waste of time because I did all that for a yeah, but not quite response. But in fact, learning what's not true, what's not how we're going to do things, is as valuable as learning how we are going to do things. So now I won't be diverting myself down that course any longer, and I'm tuned to the mark. I'm back on track. Another bullseye aim, right? Feeling good. I'm getting up. I always wake up at 4 a.m. Somewhere where thereabouts 4 to 5, depending on the seasons of my life. Maybe more often 5, but lately, since the last couple of years, 4 a.m. has been the trick. That's what I was doing. I get a lot of work done at 4 a.m. That's when I wrote most of the supplemental work for my book, The Good Life, which I'm editing right now. What a piece of crap. I can't believe I published that thing. Gosh, it has so many errors. Well, the reason I say a piece of crap, because I'm going alone. My first book that I really published, so to speak, I released it in December 2021, and I would say that it's pretty much taken me, 2018, taken me 3 years to edit, pretty much constant editing to get it there. And I look back, I have the original copy in a drawer over there, and I look back and I go, what a piece of crap. I mean, the difference between the finished, when you write the end, right? The difference between that and what comes out at the end after editing is so much different. I was reading about a poet who spent 37 years editing a poem. It's The Mariner's Tale or something like that. Anyway, what was I saying? Something about the editing of the book. I spent some time working on that. Oh, about it, waking up early. So 4 a.m. I get a lot done, and I'm getting a lot done now. Well, at last, but I better get on with it. I have to go into the office today. Not have to, but I was, they're having an event. And boy, they sure are treating me nice, welcoming me back. Even HR yesterday wrote to let me know some amazing things that they had done. Because I used to be I was a former employee in terms of, let's leave it at that. Wow, thank you, County of Riverside. Let's do the good life. First of the objectives is to be always ready to die, to have my bags packed. The second one is to make good and effective use of time. The third is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. Next is to cultivate good emotional reactions. Then to perform good actions. Then to always recognize my limits, at least the ones I can see, and my opportunities. Not just mine, but any other limits and opportunities that may impact me. Like, I guess yesterday, that effort I mentioned at work revealed a true limit, in terms of function of how I thought the workflow was going to work. I realized that it could work that way, but the organization doesn't want it to work that way for a very good reason. And I realize that now, so that's a good thing. But I also see the opportunity to make the workflows work the way that they want them to work. And that's what I'm here to do. Pardon me, all these sounds. And then one thing slowly is the last objective, just to not do two things too fast or too many at a time. I should have done that yesterday slowly, getting that piece of furniture from the neighbor. Okay, now my principles. War, to be always fighting against anything that I hold true. Fighting, fighting, fighting. Are you true? Is it real? Never to accept it as settled. Never to believe myself, all the way. Always doubt myself. Doubting myself isn't quite what I meant. Always doubting what I believe. And always doubting what you believe. The skeptical mind. 2, reason and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt. 3, the homunculus, the little mortal who lives inside my head and will die when I die. My reminder that I have no soul and that death is eternal. Next is the Anchorhold, the place where we suffer and die, where the raw waters around us rise and fall, and the storms come and the winds blow, and the cold and the heat, and morning and night, and stars and heat, everything, the whole thing. And we can't get away. How can we become like the Buddha, to just sit in balanced equanimity upon that rock sticking out of the sea? I asked Emily to help me to print up an image of that rock upon the sea. I want to put it right there, because it seems to be the idea that I come back to every time I do this exercise. It seems to be the picture that's always in my head. There it is. This is the one. See the people on the rocks? The ones standing, sitting, and the sea is swelling and rising, and the rain is coming down, and they're barking at the sky. And the one in the front is kind of seated peacefully, despite the tumult. That's the Anchorhold. That's, for me, the weathering place. That's where the homunculus resides, and where the homunculus will die. Alone. Shouting at others or across the water. The next is cheery. Again, just like yesterday. It's funny, I go down these dark routes, just like I used to do in Japan. I used to go into those dark woods. But I always found something of life in them. Even if it was an abandoned grave, a lost grave in the woods. There was something that catalyzed my own sense of living in the dark exploration. And that's the same way now when I talk about these things, it does the same thing. There's a kind of a buoyancy that comes of floating on a bottomless sea. The next principle after the Anchorhold is the home of good and evil. The idea that right and wrong or opinions written in chalk so that we can wipe them away and change them. Remember the principle of reason I said earlier, and the principle of war? Also chalk, because the wind blows them away. I'm sure I haven't been to Siberia in well over a year. I'm sure under the riding bridge, though, my chalk scratchings are still up there, but faded away in the wind and the rain and the flash floods and all that stuff. Eventually they'll go away. Maybe after I'm dead, they'll see some faint image there. That's the best we can do, is some faint reverberation in the months and years, decades if we're lucky, after we're dead. Okay, so after the home of good and evil comes the principle of purpose. 3 purpose in my life: biology, virtue, and mission. Making a family, having a kid, being a virtuous man, pursuing the well-being of others, and seeking after my own objective of some art that I want to leave behind, some words. Oh, I've done right there in my books. So that's my art, that's my mission, and the sharing of these, doing this every day is part of my mission as well. Who knows? Maybe it'll help some of you. Maybe someone else will go, hey, yeah, the Anchorhold, I like that idea, and use it yourself. Next is the atomic principle. Everything is bits and pieces, flowing and changing. After that comes the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature. And it's the nature of a Thursday to be after a Wednesday and before a Friday, to be full of busyness, not quite ready to relax, and anticipating the relaxation of the end of the day on Friday. It's also trash day. That's the nature of Thursday here. After the principle of nature comes the maturity and the sub-principles of wisdom and fortitude. Wisdom being the lessons that we learn in life, and then fortitude being our will and power to be able to not repeat our mistakes and to push through towards better ends. The next after that is the social principle. We need one another. We need our people, our friends and our family and our coworkers and whatever, even if it's rough at times, we are better with our people. Doesn't mean you can't have a good life alone. It just it's like being alone is like going into the wilderness. After that comes the social principle. Well, I just did that. After that comes the public speaking, to reminding myself to use good words and few words and deliberate words and carefully chosen words and words that other people understand, and not words to show off. Words that engender society, and to not gossip. Next comes the principle of temperance and the 3 sub-principles of suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Temperance is where we control what we do, how much we do of it. Not too much, just enough. We suffer when we don't give ourselves what we want. We live a simple life when we're temperate, and apathy helps us to not to be unduly upset by the things that are outside of our control. Like, I could have been in better shape yesterday with that fiasco with the neighbors. I mean, it's a nonsense thing, but still it was in my mind. Next is the Feast of Offal, the giving out of our upset to others, to spewing it out into the world and making them upset too. They pass it along, and just on and on it goes. Blah, blah, blah. I try not to do that by tempering my own emotional responses, or at least the outward exposure of those to others. I'm getting much better at that. I've never been an flying off the handle kind of guy. Maybe once every 5 years in the past, maybe once every 2 years in my 20s and 30s. You know, I'm talking like, you know, where you get so upset that your spouse is like, okay, settle down, right? I mean, that level. I pretty much don't do that anymore. I used to, but that's the Feast of Offal. When we do that, when we spew it out and others soak it up, and then it upsets them and they do the same. I just try not to do that. It's not a matter of bottling it in, although it is bottling it in. It's more a matter of letting the storm pass without battening the hatches, right? You know, sealing up all the orifices. Zip, and inside, it's just the emotions are churning, right? Okay, the tide is high. I'm on the Homunculus rock, right? And the Anchorhold, and the water is going to splash into my face. And go, damn it. And then just let it go, and after a while it kind of passes, right? And it's like, wow, I was upset earlier. You know, too bad I told everybody about it. I'd rather be, wow, I sure was upset earlier. Good thing I kept it to myself. That doesn't mean I can't talk to people about it, you know, preferably after the fact. Maybe even in the fact, but you know, it's one thing to share it and to communicate about our upsets with others. It's quite another thing to you know, lay it on their lap and give it to them. To, here, you take this, right? And then what are they going to do? Okay, next is the principle of distraction. We distract ourselves in life through all the things that we do, so that we don't have to see the great indifference, which is the next principle. Wow, that's the world record for doing 2 principles in one, in probably less than 8 seconds. The next 2 principles go together are, no, I just did it. So the next one is the risk of, you know, the best seat in the house, to not want to be anyone else or be anyone else or be doing anything else, but be okay with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing right now. Pardon me for the sounds. After that comes the Path of Wildness. The way through new life, through and into new life. Goodness gracious. I'm on the path right now, kind of getting off the path. We're settling into our new life, so settling into a new paradigm. In the book, I described the Path of Wildness as easy to find, the course of a stream, leaves blown in the wind, a beast's track through the brush, and the direction of our first inclination. The next item is the risk of avoiding risk. There are risks in life that are pointed out to us clearly, you know, getting an education, finding someone to spend our life with, saving for retirement, buying a house, having kids, being a parent, being a responsible senior, all that kind of stuff. And we can follow that path. It's like a recipe book. And then there's also a deeper risk, which is, are you going to make good use of this time to quell that inner voice, to listen to what it's saying, to maybe follow it for a while and see where it leads. That's the deeper level risk. It's really hard to do both. Typically, we do one category or the other at the expense of the other. That includes me. I've probably spent more time in my life on the deep risk, and as a result, you know, I don't own a home, and I'm I don't know, and I'm not settled in a community necessarily. I do have a family, and I do have I could be further along in my career had I taken that path. You know, you see what I mean. But you know, for me, that was the worthwhile exchange, right? I would much rather be 57 years old, thinking, you know, ain't got much, but yet thinking to myself, yeah, I've been there. I went on my great life adventure. I've been on the path of wildness. That stuff isn't calling me as much anymore. It's time to to settle into whatever old age I can muster, rather than having a very safe nest, warm, comfortable nest, but yet wondering, what did I miss, right? I don't think I could live with that one so much. It depends on our character, right? The next is sin and damnation, and there are 7 sins in my worldview. These are, I think I'm going to change the order around. The first is credulity, an overwillingness to believe. The next is hope, wringing our hands and desiring something else. The next is faith, believing things because we want to. The next is superstition, believing things that are of themselves in a category which causes us to question. And then I didn't do so well on that one. And then let me try again. Superstition is believing things that fall into a category that society almost recognizes as being outside the pale of belief, questioning belief. It's almost entertainment. It's almost like a spectator sport to enjoy superstitions. Then comes dogma, believing things because tradition has always held it as so. Then authority, believing things because someone who seems to know what they're talking about said so. And then the last one is gossip, speaking about others, things we wouldn't probably say if they were standing right there. Hey, I think I did that. I kind of shuffled up the order on the fly. Next is the great life adventure, having one or more adventures in life that really define who we are. And then the season of philosophy is the next principle. It's a time to record what we've learned along the way. If we're so inclined, maybe we're not. Maybe the season of philosophy is just telling stories to our grandchildren. Maybe it's writing a book, or painting a picture, or volunteering and sharing through our example, whatever the case may be. Maybe there's no need for it at all. But if you're so inclined to have had a great life adventure and learned something of consequence along the way, then and you hear the muse whispering in your ear some words of consequence, then and you're so inclined, maybe write it down for the sake of the grandkids at least. Then comes, after the season of philosophy, is the bullseye aim. Trying for the mark of it missing, like I did yesterday at work, spending 2 hours making up a Visio diagram to point to not the way, which then again, as we talked about with the recognition of true limits and true opportunity, helped me to expose, oh, that's not the way we're going. Okay, now I clearly understand that, although, I'd much rather would have created a diagram that pointed the correct way rather than, here, I made a sign. That's pointing the wrong way. Oh, there we go. Don't want to have that experience with your boss in the first week. Aren't you glad you hired me? Okay, after the bullseye aim comes the uphill climb. Life is uphill climb. Next principle is the arena and utility. Life is this arena, and we have all these principles and objectives, which are like tools that hang on our belt that we use. And then the very last one is the idea that nothing is enough. Now, that's my good life meditation, and I'll close with 2 things. I always close with a summary of the anticipation of the day, and then I'll give you like it's some gift. I'll just share with you some thought I had while I was making my coffee. Here in the pre-dawn with the family asleep in the dark house, and the cold outside, and the dawning day about to come. For today, I'm going to get in the car in just a little bit. I'm not going to do my solitude transcription today, and I wrote to Erica to tell her I won't be doing that today because I have to go into the office. I get to. The CIO is having a food truck come, the executives are sponsoring a food truck to come, and so we can socialize, and I'm really excited to go socialize with my coworkers and see all the people that I used to know. So today's going to be a good part of the day. Not most of it, but just maybe an hour or two of it will be socializing. Maybe more than that, because if there's a lot of people there, I might be wandering around the building, meeting people. It's good to network, right? I mean, to have those connections, to FaceTime, all that. That's especially part of my job as a project manager, is human interaction, right? And communities and teams. I have to be that social creature, and I am. And I really look forward to catching up with people. I really do. So I'm really looking forward to that. Will I miss the mark? Absolutely. Will I come and meet some people and I will have forgotten their names, someone that I've known for years, and I'll be like, hey, you. Yeah, absolutely. I know that's going to happen. Will I say some things I wish I hadn't said? Will there be awkward moments? Sure, there will be, but that's part and parcel. That's the nature of a human meet and greet, right? It's the nature of having been away for a while and coming back to be, off balance, on the wrong foot, in some cases. I'll also have a meeting today that I'm, a little anxious about. It's the meeting that I will eventually, for the team that I will eventually be uh, in charge of running this project as the project manager. I'm still taking I'm still in listen mode. It hasn't even been a week. Well, it's a week today. And I warned everybody. I said, I'm kind of just, trying to gain a sense of everything before I begin stepping forward into that managing role. Rather than just bursting into the scene and, I got this. Just they've been doing a lot of hard work for a couple of years. I need to understand what they've been doing. I need to see how they work together. I need to know what the vision is. Right, make sure that I've got the sign pointed in the right direction. We're going this way, right? Now I'll finish with the thought that was in my mind. Like I said, I worry that I'm going to get fired. I've always worried. Every job I've ever had, I always worry I'm going to get fired. I think my dad worried the same thing. But when he was self-employed, I think he worried about other things. I won't go there. I'll keep dad's secrets. My go-to place, my safe go-to place for the fire scenario is to. I even have a spreadsheet made out. It's a packed parachute spreadsheet on my personal Microsoft account. It's a spreadsheet there that lists all the steps. I get fired. So the idea is that today I go into work and my boss calls me and says, Kurt, we're happy that you came and tried to come back with us for a week, but that document you sent yesterday pointing in the wrong direction clearly shows you don't know. You're not you're no longer for us. Or giving you notice. Here you go. Here's your severance papers. That would be a disaster. Mainly because my daughter's not done with college yet, and I need to finish that. I need to get her through university. Once she's through university, Emiko and I are nimble. Closing out 60, we're not as nimble as we used to be, but we're pretty damn nimble. We don't own much. We can pack and move on. And the place that we'd move on to is we'd go back to Japan if that happened. And that's what my packed parachute says. My packed parachute says, step one, okay, open this in a case of emergency, pull this cord, the spreadsheet opens up, it's step one. And I've got all these steps laid out, bam, 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 bam. I mean, this is something that I've really built, and I've curated it ever since I came back to America. I've developed this document. It's a step-by-step guide for life collapsing. And what it'll lead to is Yumiko and I will be back in Japan in a little apartment, curating a simple life. And I'm telling you, that's just fine with me, as long as Emily's okay. I don't want to leave Emily high and dry midway through her university. Just got to get her through the university. Once she's done with that and able to take care of herself and maybe off starting her own family and life and all that stuff, then I think that's going to summon a new change in my way of life. Is that I'll be much more cavalier. I'm not a mean person, and I'm not a irresponsible person, but I'll be certainly more cavalier in in my, or footloose in my living, because I can always go back. And so here's the piece I wanted to share with you. One time as Softy Pop, I was deep, not in the mountains, but I was deep in the back part of a railroad little village. I think it was out by Mochi Muni, somewhere between Mochi Muni and Yaizu. I can't quite remember. And I remember finding my way down these streets to the back of a mountain that come up against the little community there. And I went to a left, and then I went a little further, and then a right, and then I came to the end, and there was a beautiful shrine. I mean, and you know how some of these shrine trees, like Spirited Away, the anime, the giant shrine tree, there was one of those enormous trees like that at this Shinto shrine. I remember it was the one on the right, because usually the shrines have trees on right and left side of the shrine. The one on the right, just enormous, arching branches over the top of this old shrine. And then immediately next to that shrine was one of those old style Showa era kind of slapped together houses, wood frame, no insulation. You know the type. The more Japanese built after the war, post-war built houses. And there was it was small, maybe probably 2 bedrooms in there. Maybe it had once housed a family, but now it housed a little old woman. And she was out in front with one of those stick brooms that the Japanese have. And she was sweeping it up the front of her house, and she was tidying up the front of the shrine. I went into the shrine and I sat on the edge of the entrance there, next to the. It was a Inari shrine, so I sat next to very close to the fox statue, and I listened to the sounds. There was sound. It was a warm season, and there was the sounds of the forest behind me and the sound of the city before me. I think I heard a train passing in the distance, and some cars going by, a scooter, and then the sweep of the sticks on the ground as she moved the fallen leaves off of from in front of the shrine in her house. And that look on her face, the way she carried herself, and the tidiness of her small little house, a kind of house where very few Japanese would actually want to live, but looked like paradise to me. I've stayed in that kind of house before many a time. I know the creaks and the groans that they make at night, and the cold that they have in the cold season, and there's no insulation. And I told myself, this is paradise. I know it's not perfection. I know paradise isn't real. I know, but you can have a dream, right? That little house, a place like that, tucked away at the edge of the metropolis, and next to something special, where the days will come and go, and a little bit of effort keeps things clean. That's my dream. So if I do go in today and they issue me my papers, or if that comes next week or a month or 2 after that, hopefully it doesn't happen until Emily's graduated from university. Then I will whip out that spreadsheet, my packed parachute, and I'll begin executing those steps. And when I get back to Japan, I'll be looking for that place. And I tell you, Nico, that she's very aware of my dream. I tell her about it all the time. That's how she can tell when I'm having a tough time, is because I tell that story. I know I'll never find that, right? I mean, Yumiko wouldn't want to live in a house like that. She grew up in one of those. She's had enough of that. But still, a guy can dream. And with that, I'll stop. I wish you all the best. Make it a good day. And remember to be safe, but not too safe. Take care.